Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new seminar of Voter Registration Basics. My name is Carol Schloff, and I'm, among other things, a team member of the Pima County Democratic PC Development Team. So I wanted to tell you a little story. It'll take about 1 minute. In 2017, I started political volunteering with what now is Mission for Arizona. It was called a consolidated campaign. So I went to my very first meeting, very excited, and a really nice young man handed me a clipboard, some voter registration forms, and a pen. And he said to me, "Okay, Carol, you're all set. Go ahead out and register people to vote. Come back in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we'll review your progress." Well, I looked him in the eye and I said, "Absolutely not. This is not for me." I had no idea where to go. I had no idea how to approach people, what identification they needed. I had no idea. What were the Arizona and Pima County laws that govern voter registration? And most important, I knew for sure that I could never answer any question that they had. So we're going to fast forward to today, and we are here to get you educated, comfortable, and ready to begin registering voters in Pima County. Today we have two presenters. Caroline Wilson is an LD4 super volunteer, and she'll be presenting the PowerPoint. She's been voter registration training for PCs and volunteers in LD4 and LD3 for a couple of years. Our second presenter is Betty Harris, who is an LD3 PC and my voter registration mentor. Thanks, Betty. She'll be manning the chat, and midway through Caroline's PowerPoint presentation, we'll pause for Betty to read your questions that I'd like you to put in chat, and she'll read them out loud and answer them for everyone to hear. At the end of the presentation, at the end of the PowerPoint, there'll be time for additional questions also. So you can keep putting them in chat, or since we're a small enough group, we can raise our hands, or and Betty will call on you for the questions. So I'm going to ask you now to please mute yourself. Remember to put your questions in chat. We're going to be giving you lots of information. There are certain things that you may feel comfortable jotting down if you wanted to take a couple of notes, but we are recording this, and this will be available through Pima County Dems for you to review. We're going to have a library of these ready for you. We've already done a couple on PC training and canvassing. It's my pleasure right now. I'm going to share my screen and to introduce you to my friend Caroline Wilson. Let me just get this set. Oh, can you all see this? Can someone unmute and tell me yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Yay. Okay, you guys. Here's Caroline Wilson. Oh, I should. Oh, okay.
So hi, everybody. This is fun to be doing this. I'm glad that Carol asked me if I would like to kind of narrate this PowerPoint on voter registration. And I said, sure, even though I haven't done it for a while, but yeah, I think this is going to be fun. And what I want to say is that today really is an introduction to voter registration. We're not going to really probably turn you into registrars in just this 30-minute presentation, but we'll give you a good introduction, and then you will know that it really isn't that difficult, and you can team up with a group who's out doing it. So let's look here. Carol, come over here a sec. Do I go this way?
Yeah, no, I think down or this way. I don't know. You have to, where are you?
To get it to change to the next slide.
Where is it? Oh, there. Okay, yeah. See,
Roll it
yeah, just
towards
roll
me.
it. Yeah. And
Okay, good. So we start with just thinking about our core beliefs in the Democratic Party. I think all of you probably feel that the same way I do, that voting is your right for all of us and responsibility. Every election and every single vote counts. And think of your vote as your voice. And these are kind of concepts that when you do go out, you can parrot back to the people you're encouraging to get registered. So the goals of the session today are really just to familiarize all of you with voter registration in Pima County and understand why it is so important to our success in the upcoming elections, and to learn some key components for how we do it. Okay, let's start by thinking why we register voters. At the very basic, we register people to vote, as many as we can, because it matters. By registering new voters, we're changing and expanding the electorate. And this is something we must do for upcoming elections in 2021 and 2022. We also, let's see, get this. We also register people to vote because we know that the people that we register are going to be very likely to turn out and vote. And Democrats win when more people are able to participate and vote. We also know that voting is a habit. It takes voting in 3 consecutive elections, only that much, to turn somebody into a voter for life. So think of it this way. If you're registering new voters, you're helping create lifelong voters who will participate time and time again after each election. So think about now for a second the legal requirements of voter registration. This is, harking back to Carol's story, this is what they didn't give her, and this is why she felt that she wasn't prepared. So let's start at the very basic here. Who can register to vote in Arizona? There are 3 criteria that must be met. You must be at least 18 years old, or you will be 18 by election day. You have to be a US citizen and be a resident of Arizona and the county, in this case, Pima County, that they are registered in. So if you go out and do this, you may run into people that meet all 3 of those criteria, but even then, they can't be registered to vote if they have been convicted of a felony and have not yet had their civil rights restored. But take note, if you run into somebody for whom this is their first felony conviction and it was only a 1-count felony, their civil rights will be automatically restored after they complete probation and pay all their fines, which is not quite as easy as it sounds, but that's an important thing for you to know. And you cannot register somebody to vote if they have been adjudicated as incompetent. So that's important to keep in mind. Now let's look at the form. This is the Arizona VR voter registration form. And I know you probably have a hard time reading this, and it's not important at this stage in the game that you read all that fine print, but take note of 2 things on the screen here. One is the proof of citizenship, and the other is the permanent early voter list. We abbreviate that to PEVL, and that is the way in which we get our ballots through the mail. And it's currently in flux right now. Some efforts to change the legislation. Let's get a closer look now at this form. Here is a close-up of the Arizona registration form. And really, when you look at it, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is a 1-page paper document with a carbon on the back. And if you were registering someone to vote, here is really all you need. You'd fill in their, or they would fill in, you'd encourage them to fill in their name. That's their last name, first name, middle name, their address where they actually live, not where they get their mail, but where they live goes in that block. Number 3, the last 4 digits of their social security may or may not be required, but the next item, proof of citizenship, is, and you notice the arrow is pointing to box number 9. We're going to talk about that in a moment. That is the Arizona driver's license number. And 99% of the time, that's all one is going to need to prove that they're a citizen. The next item is a date of birth, which is important. And 2 more fields are not in these required yellow highlighted fields, but they're really important if you're having someone fill out this form to be sure that they complete party preference, check Republican, Democrat, or other. We hope they'll check Democrat. And their phone number is important too, because the county recorder, excuse me, may have a question and may need to contact them. So those, in fact, it's just a good idea if somebody's filling this out and you're helping them, guiding them through it, if they fill in all the forms, but the yellow ones on this screen are the required ones. Then they need to affirm that they are indeed a citizen and that they are 18 or will be by election day, and then they need to sign and date it. And it's really just that simple. So let's look at the proof of citizenship issue. So I said a second ago, 9 times out of 10, if you're helping get somebody registered to vote, their Arizona driver's license will do the trick. That's all they need. Or if they don't have a driver's license, the non-operating license will also do. If they have neither of those 2 things and they're indigenous, if they have a card showing the BIA number, census number for Indian groups, et cetera, that will do, or alien registration number will also suffice. If they don't have any of those things, then the absolute proof of citizenship would be the copy of the birth certificate or a copy of their passport, and that would be like attached to the form. But if you're doing this voter registration, let's say on the fly, maybe in front of a library or something, chances are that person's going to have a driver's license or one of those other cards with them, and you won't have to worry about this birth certificate business or passport. If they don't have those other cards or licenses, you can give them the form and they can take it home and make a copy of the birth certificate or passport and attach that to their form and send it in. But we'd rather complete the whole transaction on the spot if we can. So I hope that's clear about proof of citizenship and what's going to be needed. Now, here's something that we're going to mention briefly, but it's probably not going to come up. I have never used this, but there is a federal voter registration form that allows people to register for federal elections, federal only, without providing documentary proof of citizenship. I don't know why, that seems odd, but that's true. And in that case, they will need the last 4 digits of their social. And the thing is about using this form is that people will only be eligible to vote for federal candidates, the president, obviously, and House of Representatives and the Senate. So in general, we prefer to use the Arizona voter registration form so that people can vote in for state offices and ballot questions and all the local races. So if they just go with this federal form, they will be left out of a lot of decision making. Here's a look at it. I've never seen it. I've never used it, but look how short it is. It's brief. So that's an advantage of it. But if you have the opportunity to steer them towards the Arizona registration form, go that route. There's one other way to get people registered to vote. And I have found especially when I go door to door and when I'm working on community college campuses, that this method online really suits a lot of people, especially younger people. So if they have a valid license for Arizona, driver's license, they can go online to servicearizona.com and just walk through all the steps. It's really pretty simple. And I recommend that you check out that website if you have not already done so, and walk through the voter registration part so that you're familiar with how slick it is and how easy it would be to use. A few drawbacks as shown here on the screen. The tribal IDs are not identified as yet. Now, how about a receipt? If you're signing up somebody, say in front of a library, and you're using the paper form, the Arizona paper form, there is that carbon on the back, which you can give them and tell them that is important to hold on to, because if for some reason there is a glitch in getting their voter registration card in the mail, which will come probably, 2 or 3 weeks, I think, after the form is submitted, that receipt can be used as proof that they did register. So that's an important thing to hold on to. Again, I mentioned this in the beginning that I think of this session today as just an overview. You will do really well to join a little class, maybe in your own district, somebody like me who's teaching people how to, or helping people understand the real nuts and bolts of registering. Here are some rules which that guy that Carol met that day didn't give her, and so she didn't feel well equipped for good reason. So the first one here is we can't offer anybody something of value, even if it's a sucker, a lollipop, to register to vote. So it's not a quid pro quo kind of thing. And when we're registering people, we register everyone who wants to sign up, regardless of party. So Democrats, independents, Republicans alike. We try to turn in the forms on time. And this PowerPoint says 6 business days, but it's my understanding it's more like 72 hours. And just another rule volunteers need to be aware of: you should never take a picture, like with your phone, or photocopy that Pebble form or the voter registration form. So those are the rules, pretty simple. Just 4 really key ones there. So I think now we're going to have my colleague Betty Harris take any questions that may have come in up to this point. So I'm going to step aside here and let Betty take over, and then you'll hear from me again in a few minutes.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Betty can come on.
Well, we only have had one question from Julie, and Julie is concerned that she's getting kind of different messages here. Carol is telling her, don't go out and do this until you've got some real training. This isn't really a training. And I'm saying, you know, there are no rules here. The state law doesn't say you have to go through a voter registration training before you can do this, So it's kind of up to you. If you are uncomfortable with doing this, I would suggest that the first time you do it, you definitely go out with somebody else. I'm not sure that you have to go to a special training if the person you're with has been doing it for a while. Differences of opinion come up on some of these little ins and outs of this, you will hear a little different things. And remember that the expert on this is the county recorder's office. You can always call the county recorder's office and speak to the person who is in charge or someone who is knowledgeable about voter registration there. So, you know, don't be afraid or feel that it's and it is a little different. Julie mentions that she's worked in another state, and the rules are different from state to state. So, you know, you do want to familiarize yourself with it. There are some things, you know, you don't want to run somebody down the wrong path. I remember that someone told me she was just devastated when she registered a student at the U of A, and then he lost his scholarship because it was dependent on his out-of-state registration. So, I mean, you can't, I mean, she didn't know that, you know, he didn't know that. It just, you know, sometimes, but you're doing it with the best of intentions. And you definitely want to get the form, familiarize yourself with it. If you have questions, part of the thing that the 1530 girls are doing, that is the two women who are working at headquarters who have who are supposed to be concentrating on voter registration. Well, you know, they should be able to help you if you have specific questions about it. And if you want to get the forms, you know where to get the forms. Of course, you can get them from the recorder's office, but they won't give you that many to start with. And that's okay, because they're expensive. You know, you can also get them from the county headquarters on First Street, and you can get them from Carol, and you can get them from me. So, you know, any questions that you have about this stuff, feel free to ask one of us, and realize we're volunteers too, and we make mistakes. So, okay.
Are there any other questions that we can answer right now? I know Caroline's going to address some of these things as we go forward, you know, getting involved with a group to do it and where the forms are. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we will continue the presentation. Continue to put any information or questions you have in chat, and then we will answer questions and have a discussion when we're done. So let me see. Oh, I wanted to show you what Caroline looks like for 1 second, so you know who you're talking to.
I was hoping she wouldn't do this, but here we are.
Okay, let me share the screen.
Good.
Oh, wait, it's, hold on, I think
You
I
need the chair.
there. Yeah,
Okay.
hold on a minute. Let me get the screen. Oh, what's this? Okay, can you see the screen? You may have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, here we go with the second half. Thank you.
So this part of the program is more addressing, I hope, sort of Julie's concerns there in her question to Betty, how we actually do it, how to register voters. And to start off, we've identified, identified 4 different components that, that we're going to look at individually. The mindset, the way you're thinking about it, the preparations you'll need to do, where you're going to go out and register people to vote, and how to ask people if they want to get registered. So let's start with the mindset and just think about that. So getting into the mindset to begin with is really at its very essence, it's recognizing and thinking that what you're doing, registering people to vote, is a powerful, important thing. And as a volunteer, you're providing a service to the community by making it really easy and convenient for them to vote. Always keeping in the back of your mind too, that registering voters is how we are ultimately going to win. Getting into the voter registration sort of mood mindset involves just being enthusiastic about what you're going to do and energetic and very positive. Like the people in this picture, if you look like you're having fun, people will be more inclined to want to register. And so we hope if you do go out and do this, that it will be fun and you can make up your own little slogans, whatever you want. So let's think about the second key component, the preparation for doing voter registration. Again, I recommend you either attend a little training or pair up with somebody, a veteran like Betty Harris, who has done this before, and they will help you with the materials that you might need. But at the very basic, here's what you will need. You'll need some forms. Again, you can get those at the recorder's office and in a number of other places. Clipboards, you'll need pens, black or blue, either one will do. And you can, if you want to get good at this, you can be registering 2 people at one time. So having 2 clipboards sometimes helps. Having manila envelopes attached to the back for putting those completed forms is really important. That can't be understated, actually. That form, that the original copy is a legal document. So you want to be really sure it doesn't blow away in the wind and that you safeguard it. On that clipboard, you'll want to have, of course, obviously the forms, the Arizona forms, the PEVL forms. Again, that stands for Permanent Early Voting List. That's the voting by mail, how you get your ballot in the mail, which, as we mentioned before, is in flux right now. The legal overview handouts, there's one about felonies, that you'll have these things with you on your clipboard that you can hand out, and you'll have a volunteer application form. So if you run into somebody really enthusiastic who says, I would like to do this, and get people signed up, you can give them that form and they can fill it out. And then the COVID precaution sort of goes without saying. The next key component to consider is where you might do this. Betty Harris is one of our real veteran voter registration people, and she can pipe in here probably an ad to this discussion on location. But if you want to go out on your own, or maybe just team up with someone, you can get ideas from your friends and family of where you might go out to meet up with people where they are. You can do research online. You can look on social media to see what's happening. Keep a little notebook to keep track of potential events and locations. And the things that you're going to be thinking about is, excuse me, when and where do people have time to register to vote? Are you going to catch them when they're running from one building to another to get there so they won't be late for class? Or is that maybe doesn't work sometimes if they're really in a hurry? But then on the other hand, when you think of who needs to register to vote, students, both high school and community college level, are one of the key groups. So these are all things to consider when you're trying to decide where to go to register people to vote. You can consider, of course, any place that is public, libraries, community colleges, other schools, and events like street fairs, Tucson Meet Yourself here locally, farmers markets, concerts, etc. You'll run into some snags potentially if you go on private land. You know, even the Safeway parking lot is private, and that can present some problems. So it's probably better to stick with public places, at least certainly to start out. So the last component is probably the most important one, and we'll get to Julie's question here, I hope, a little bit. How do you ask people? What do you actually say when you're trying to get them registered to vote. So making the ask, how to approach them, you can actually step right in front of people as long as you don't trip them of walkers as they approach you, and be a little bit assertive, kind of politely and modestly assertive. That will encourage them to stop and listen. And if you're walking with somebody who is in a bit of a rush, you can walk alongside them and you can actually talk to them as you go. That's a strategy that we use on community campuses, for instance, when kids are going from class to class. And if you have a group of people, remember to address everybody in that group. Don't just let one person speak for everybody else. So that kind of gets you in the mindset of asking, and your body language is going to hopefully follow. Keeping in mind those core beliefs and the basic mindset of getting people registered to vote. You're going to make eye contact, smile, be approachable, and you can put that clipboard right in their hand and say something like, this only takes a couple of minutes. If you're working an event where somebody set up a table, always stand in front of the table. Don't park yourself behind. And you give them that clipboard and a pen, and then you can kind of walk them through each field. If they have a question, what does this mean? You can help them with it in that way. So what about your language when you're making the ask? What do you actually say? For starters, you can simply say, are you registered to vote? Are you registered to vote in Pima County at your current address? People forget that they need to update their registration if they move. And another thing to tack on there is, has your name changed since you registered to vote? Because that's another reason why you might have to update. Someone might have to update their form. And if they say no, then you can put the clipboard in their hands and begin kind of walking them through it. You want to be confident and politely assertive. You don't want to be aggressive and turn them off. But on the other hand, you don't want to give them an out to just say, oh, I'll do it another day. So you want to make it easy and fun. I think that really covers pretty much what we had outlined in this pretty introductory voter registration class. And I think, or PowerPoint, I think if you can talk to the people in your own legislative district and find out who's going out and doing voter registration. And as Betty said, team up with somebody, even if there isn't a little class or session offered. If you go with somebody experienced, within about 5 or 10 minutes, you'll have it down and you'll be doing it yourself. So thanks so much for your time and your interest in getting people registered to vote in Pima County.
Okay, I'm going to unshare my screen and we'll go back to Betty and you can answer any questions.
Hi, yeah, there were a couple here, several came up right at the end that I didn't get a chance to answer. One was, what does match the tone mean? Now, I'm not sure where was that, Carol? Match the tone? What was that?
That's in the last.
If someone is in a hurry, and maybe you'll quicken up the pace of how you describe things, oh, it's so easy, I'll even do it for you, it's just 6 questions that we need to answer and I'll need your signature. If someone has time to talk about it and wants a little more information, well, that's how you match your tone. You slow down, you give them the information you want, talk to them, maybe they're interested in volunteering also.
Yeah, someone else asked, do I have to stand up all the time? That brings up the issue of tabling, what we call tabling. Now, In one of the slides, somebody mentioned stand in front of the table. Yeah. And now that means if you are at a table and you just sit like a frog on a log behind the table, you know, looking down at your clipboard, not making eye contact, not, you know, I mean, you have to engage. You have to figure out some, you don't have to be standing up to do it, you know, but you could. And tabling gets into a whole nother kettle of fish because there are some places where, well, there are a few places where you can just go and set up a table and nobody's gonna give you any trouble. Those places are Pima County libraries for the most part. In many places that allow tabling, you have to pay a fee to set up a table. At an event, at most events, to set up a table, you have to pay a fee. Now there are exceptions, but by and large, that's the situation. Sometimes those fees can be pretty, you know, considerable expense. So generally, we find out if the county party is paying for a table at an event, you know, and let them do it. But there may be situations where you want to do that. Now, somebody asked, how do I find out who my legislative district person, how do I find out how to contact these people? You can do that through the county headquarters. You know, you should be able to find that information on their website, which will give you a link to people in the different legislative districts. Now, you have to know that some legislative districts are more active in doing this kind of thing than others. So it may be if you can't try to contact your legislation district and you don't get any response, you have to go back to Pima County Democratic headquarters because, you know, they definitely will give you help. But on the other hand, you have to be an advocate for yourself. Like Carol, when she was told, do this, don't do it if you don't feel comfortable with it or don't feel you have enough information. You know, sometimes these people who are doing these things are just thinking about what they have to do, which is get you, the volunteer, out on the street. And they're not thinking about your needs and wishes and abilities and all that other kind of stuff. So you know, you do have to be your own advocate. Don't do something you're not comfortable with, or at least ask questions about it. Let's see, is there something else in there? Yeah, Lauren does say that you can get in touch with her, because remember, Lauren is one of those, the 15, 30 folks who have been set up to do this. Registering voters is part of their of what their job is. So they can help you, and of course they want you to be volunteering to do this, and they are happy to help you. And I'm sure you can go out with them. You can you can find some way of doing this. Don't, as I say, don't do something you're not comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable with it, make it known. You know, let those people know. And something else. Okay, the League of Women Voters. Hyatt Simpson mentions the League of Women Voters comprehensive booklet, which lists all of your current, and this current is changing all the time, but lists your elected officials. And I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. I go down to the League of Women Voters and I get a handful of those things and I always take them with me. And I try to remember each time I register a new voter or even someone who has moved, that I give them that little booklet. So that's a very good thing. Thank you, Hyatt, for bringing that up.
Can I ask
yes,
one other
please.
thing, Betty?
Yeah.
Caroline, in her overview, mentioned something about a legal overview handout. Was that just about?
Somebody else asked about that. What were you
That was me.
talking about there, Carol?
We have a little brochure about the felony.
Oh, okay,
And,
that's what I thought.
And which is interesting because Caroline and I were talking and, we thought that would never come up, like, oh, all right, I know
it comes up all the time.
I have to tell you, it comes up all the time. So you should familiarize yourself with it. And there are also, like the League of Women Voter brochures, a very small 1-2 page brochure about that explains that very specifically.
Okay, let me speak to that
Please.
because I'm not sure whose handout you're using there, but the thing that I tell most people who tell me that they're convicted felons and they have more than one count, one conviction, and you can have, if you have more than one count, even though you only went to court once, but you were convicted on 2 criminal charges, then you have to go to the court where you were convicted and ask to have that to be allowed to
Restore your civil rights.
right,
To re-register to vote.
Thank you. And the Pima County Public Defender's Office on 33 North Stone does on Wednesdays will speak to anyone who, you have to make an appointment now. It used to be a walk-in, but they will speak to you about restoring your rights. So if you run across, I make a little thing with that that information on it.
Yeah,
that I have,
that's what I use also.
that I give out.
Yeah.
So, another thing that you might want to have in your little box of tricks is the QR code that takes you directly to the Service Arizona. And the students that I talk to, and I go to Pima College a lot because I used to teach there, they like that QR code thing. Now, remember when you're dealing with people, you're often going to be interrupting people and dealing with people who are in a hurry. Don't feel bad about that. You are, at least, in the very least, you're making them aware that someone cares if they register to vote. And even if they don't want to do it, and even if they're annoyed because they're late to class, and they're usually okay about that, they'll say, "I'm sorry, I'm late to class," and you say, "I'm sorry, I'll be here for another hour or something." So, don't you don't want to be rude to anybody, and you don't want to annoy people, but there's a fine line there. And you can do that. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions about that stuff?
Hyatt.
Hyatt?
Yeah.
Question?
So students can register to vote here if they're living in Tucson, Pima County, but sometimes they are registered to vote at home.
Yeah, okay. So you can't vote in 2 places. You can't register to vote in 2 places. So they have to make them they have to register in their place of residency. And most Pima College students are residents. Many university students, or maybe, well, I don't know what percentage, but there's a percentage of U of A students who are not. Hopefully they're aware of that.
But if they want to register here, they could, if they fill in that part of the form that says I was registered somewhere else and kind of switch the registration that way.
Well, that's a very good question. I'm going to put that on my list of things. I've got several here to talk to the recorder's office about. It's
Well,
because there have been a few cases that have come to light recently, or maybe is Lauren still at this meeting?
Yes, Lauren, I think
Okay,
had her hand up.
Lauren, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, as long as somebody is planning to live there for 30 days, that's considered residency. So if they come to U of A and they want to register here and then they go somewhere else next semester, they can re-register in that location. So as long as they're here for at least 30 days and they're considered a resident. And also Miranda's listening and I'm pretty sure she told me that. So if I'm wrong, Miranda, feel free to speak up.
Don't worry, that is correct.
Okay.
Arizona residency is defined as basically living in Arizona for 30 days. It's a very loose definition. And that's actually why the law that was passed a few years ago that allows college students to register, that's why it was such a big deal, because there are many conservatives who believe that just because someone who's in college doesn't live either in Arizona or at their campus full time doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a say in what happens on that campus.
Right.
So that's what that is, that's where that's coming from.
I have a couple of more things to add that just popped up. These are kind of random, but when you are registering voters, and this is one of the items that is voluntary, it isn't required, party preference. If they don't put a party preference, which is Democrat, Republican, or other, which is independent, they will automatically be registered as an independent. The one caveat we have with that is if you are registered as an independent, you are not allowed to vote in a presidential preference election. So you have to be registered as either a Democrat or a Republican to do that. And that's really important to us because that can swing things, one way or another. So that was first. The other thing I wanted to say was 29 days prior to an election, you have to be signed up at least 29 days prior to an election in order to vote in that election. It's sort of cut off after that 29th day. And the other thing, since Lauren is here, I wanted to talk just a moment about 1530. What 1530 means is the 15 counties in the state of Arizona and the 30 legislative districts in the state of Arizona. When Coordinated Campaign or Mission for Arizona, come into town right before the election, and they're very geared up and they help us do phone banking and they help us organize canvases. That's all well and good. And then they leave. The purpose of 1530 is consistency. We have someone here year round, well before the election, to get us going, to get us motivated, and it's not that someone just shows up the day or the week or two before the election for get out the vote. They're here 24/7, on a 365 day process. So Lauren, thank you. If you have anything else to add, please.
Sure, thanks. 24/7 is right, Carol. It feels like that at least. But when it comes to voter registration, we really want to make it easy and fun and accessible for everybody. So for instance, this morning I was at the Rito Farmers Market. So trying to find events where people are already going, like if you're already going to the farmers market, why not bring a couple of voter registration forms with you? Or if you go to the library once a week to check out books, like why not bring a couple of forms? Or like big events in town, like you mentioned, Tucson Meet Yourself. We have the All Souls procession that's coming up in just a few weeks. So we're going to try to.
That's so much fun.
Yeah. I'm excited just to go. Like, I honestly, I don't want to say I don't care about voter registration because that's not accurate, but I like having a good time. So making it like really fun and again, accessible to people. So if you go to your kids or your grandkids soccer games every Saturday, like bring a clipboard with you. Just incorporating it into your everyday life instead of having to, just put it on the calendar, I think makes it a lot more, I keep using the word fun, but it genuinely is fun. It just makes it a part of your daily life, and you get involved with your community, which is what this is all about. Like, that's how we win votes in elections. It's your community, not just calling 100 random strangers every day until you hate talking on the phone. So I don't want to burn anybody out. And whatever I can do to support any of you, like, I'll follow up with everybody if you would like, and we can talk about different events or how you can get involved. But yeah, just making it a part of your schedule if you want, no pressure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I was going to add that a little bit to what you said about the party preference part, Carol. There is in Arizona law, there's no independent. So if somebody says I'm an independent, they're registered as other. But also on that line where it says other, there's a space, and you can put in green or libertarian, or, if there's some other party, you want to specify. So that's all I wanted to add to that.
Anything else? Well, this has been great. I mean, I learned a lot, and I want to thank Betty Harris. She's so full of information. This is really her passion, and it was great that you could give us all this information and answer the questions. I want to thank Caroline Wilson, who worked really hard on giving us the information we needed on the PowerPoint. And just a shout out to Lauren from 1530, who's always been there for many of the events that I've been involved with, and also Miranda for getting this all together for us. So I want to thank you all very much for being here, and hope to see you out there with a clipboard and some registration forms in your hand. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Martin.